Taylor Swift shook her fan base last Friday when she started the promo for Tortured Poets. She released 5 playlists on Apple Music. And what was the theme of these playlists, you might ask? The 5 stages of grief. A theory that fans had already been playing around with for a while. As she released different variants of Tortured Poets, people were suspecting that there would be 5 variants, each addressing a different of the 5 stages of grief. I was one of the many people trying to debunk this because in the end we did only get 4 variants. But anyway, people are saying that this in fact proves that theory. And I'm still not fully convinced. Because take a look at the official message on these playlists from Apple Music. When Swifties agreed upon a theory, Taylor takes interest, so naturally she responded by crafting a series of exclusive playlists. So they kind of make it sound like Taylor heard of the theory and she was like, hey, nice idea, I'm gonna use this to promote the record. I mean, it's that, or this has been the master plan all along, which is really exciting because that would mean that we are missing a variant. Maybe we will get something like what we did on Midnight and she will release a deluxe edition of the Tortured Poets shortly after releasing the album. Because I mean, we have the evidence, right? Each of the 5 playlists correlates to a different version of Tortured Poets. I Love You Is Ruining My Life correlates to the back of the manuscript. You Don't Get to Tell Me About Sad Songs to the Bolter. Am I Allowed to Cry to the Albatross. Old Habits Die Screaming to Black Dog. And I Can Do It With a Broken Heart does not correlate to the back of any. It is, of course, the title of one of the songs in Tortured Poets, so maybe that was just her way of getting the 5th one in. But I think that will potentially somehow relate to us getting a 5th variant. I mean, otherwise the theory still doesn't make sense to me. But now let's take a closer look at these playlists and which songs she decided to put where. Because so many people are losing their minds over the revelations that come with this.
Welcome to my I Love You, It's Ruining My Life playlist.
So, I Love You, It's Ruining My Life. So she addressed this as the denial/Delulu stage. She included songs no one expected, like Lavender Haze, Snow on the Beach, Cruel Summer, Lover, False God. This just gets worse and worse the more you read it. We have Betty, Willow, Wildest Dreams, Hours. So it's clear that she wrote all of these songs while maybe having overwhelming feelings, battling with the acceptance of where those relationships would go. Now people are realizing that Lover does give off this kind of like anxious attachment style vibe to it, where it's almost like she's begging to be with him. Can I go where you go? Can we always be this close? She's asking him. This doesn't mean it isn't a love song. It just means that when she wrote it, she was kind of in denial or in a delusional state of what that love was. Maybe not accepting that it was deteriorating or that things were bound to change. Perhaps she was delusional about how their love was and caught up more on the idea of it than the actual essence of it. People also were pointing out the most painful part of this being, at every table, I'll save you a seat, not being a romantic gesture so much, but more speaking of how he was never there. So she had to save him a seat in case he would show up. One that really hurt me to see here is Hours. I don't know why, I always saw that as like a very innocent and like happy love song, sticking out through the thick and thin, not caring what other people think. But again, maybe at the time that she wrote it, she was trying to convince herself that that was the situation and it just wasn't the reality. We could do a deep dive on like every single song on these playlists to analyze how they ended up on here, and that is something that we could do, but for now let's keep it short. Let's do one more and then move on to the next playlist. And one that stood out to me being here is Bejeweled. Why is Bejeweled in the denial state? In essence, this is a song where she's saying, you think you can walk all over me? Well, watch me as I enter rooms, make heads turns, make the whole place shimmer. Kind of like saying, I still got it with or without you. Basically saying, don't underappreciate me, you don't know my value. And there are 2 different reasons why I could come up with as to why that is on this Denial Delulu playlist. So the first would be that it was her own insecurities speaking to her, telling her, you cannot reclaim your land. You won't come out stronger on the other side. And so in a moment of denial, she writes this song telling herself, kind of lifting her spirits, saying, yes, I can. I'm not listening to this narrative of me being trapped somewhere. I'm gonna lift myself up and try to deny my feelings that I'm trapped here. And the second reason, or 2, she wrote this while truly believing it, but then realizing that it was easier said than done. She was in denial of how the situation would actually unfold. Maybe she was telling herself, hey, no matter what happens, we break up, I'm gonna be good. And then the breakup comes and she realizes, well, actually, people get sad when there's a breakup. It's a hard thing to go through and I'm strong, but I'm not immune to the human emotions that come with having to deal with something like that. You won't always be glowing after a breakup. No matter how strong you are, there will always be some lingering feeling of sadness, and that's okay. So now let's take a look at the You Don't Get to Tell Me About Sad Songs playlist. She said all the songs in this playlist had one thing in common, that she wrote them when she was angry. Here we can see a lot of expected songs like Would've, Could've, Should've, Dear John, Is It Over Now, We Are Never Getting Back Together, The Moment I Knew. But let's take a look at the ones that weren't so obvious, like Illicit Affairs. Now, just watching the Eras Tour performance of Illicit Affairs kind of makes it clear that she was angry, and actually I'm really disappointed we don't have a studio version with that emotion. But the reason that it stands out to me is because I never connected that song to it being something related to how she felt, but more of her building stories, which was kind of like this whole story about folklore, right? That she was coming up with fictional characters and writing these stories for us. And the same thing comes with Tolerated. I think she claimed it was based on this book, and the fact that those songs made it onto this playlist kind of beg to differ, unless of course she read the book and then felt anger afterwards. The next playlist we have is Am I Allowed to Cry? And this one reflects the bargaining stage, making deals with yourself or someone you care about. Here we have songs like The Great War, Cornelia Street, The Archer, I Wish You Would, Better Man. So let's talk about some of these, like The Great War. I always saw it as a love/apology song, but it being here makes me realize that it's actually more about her begging for the relationship to work by just putting the blame on her. I mean, the whole song, she's just talking about how it's all her fault. All the problems came down to her, and like trauma from past relationships screaming from the crypts. And then he tells her you have to trust more freely. And looking back at that line now, I'm like, wow. And looking back at that line now gives me a different perspective on the song, because it almost sounds like he's dismissing her. Instead of reassuring her and trying to make her feel comfortable, he's just dismissing whatever she's feeling. Another one I want to talk about is Cornelia Street, where again, she talks about how she almost drove off one day and decided just to end the relationship. But then he called and she turned the car around, again showing that there were issues there, and he was kind of giving off the vibe that he was playing her. And so maybe this is a song that we have over romanticized, where the story of how it came to be is not as romantic as we thought it was going to be. And I think Death by a Thousand Cuts being here could be more about her having a bad gut feeling, like almost foreseeing that the end was coming. So she talked about how she was inspired by this movie where a relationship came to an end, not because of cheating, just two people where someone stops feeling the way that they felt for the other. So maybe this was already something that she was thinking about and saying, okay, I feel like he's distant. I feel like this is something that could potentially happen. Again, I want to look at all of these, but if there's specific ones you would like me to talk about, maybe we can do a follow-up, so let me know. But now let's go into Old Habits Die Screaming, with songs like Bigger Than the Whole Sky, Maroon, You're Losing Me, My Tears Ricochet. This is a playlist about feelings of depression. She said Taylor wrote these songs when feeling lonely or hopeless. Of course, starting off with what might be one of the saddest songs, Bigger Than the Whole Sky, just goes to show the pain behind this playlist. There were a few surprises for me though, like Maroon. For some reason, for me, it sounds more like an angry song than like a sad song. What do you guys think about that? I also have something similar for My Tears Ricochet. Again, I feel like that's an angry song, but it just makes it that much more powerful to know that she wrote it from a place of sadness and hurt, and not from a place of being angry about the situation. You're Losing Me is exactly what I imagined for this playlist. Another interesting one is Champagne Problems, because for Folklore and Evermore, she kind of just made it out like, oh, I like to write sad songs. That's just a thing. I enjoy this. And now we're opening our eyes and seeing, maybe somebody who's happy does not naturally get inclined to write this kind of songs. The fact that she wrote this when she was feeling sad means that there was something happening in her life that drew her to that. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be personal to her. I mean, one of her friends could have gone through something that made her feel sad and therefore... But I feel like in that case, it would lean towards anger more so than depression. The final playlist is the one corresponding to the unpotentially released variant, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, where she goes into acceptance, moving on from loss or heartbreak. These are songs representing to just let in more good into your life. We have The One, August, Invisible String, Happiness, Daylight, Now That We Don't Talk, Begin Again. Now some of these songs are just obvious being here, like Now That We Don't Talk and You're On Your Own Kid, but Invisible String and Daylight? Some people think that maybe these songs just now hold a double meaning to her different to what was happening when she wrote them. But if I understand correctly, these playlists are based on the emotions that she felt when she wrote the songs. So maybe when she wrote Invisible Strings, she was more comfortable in the relationship than when she wrote Lover, for example. And that's why this one made it to the acceptance stage. She's accepting things as they are, and maybe whatever problems that they've had, she's decided to put behind her and just be happy with the relationship as it is. And same with Daylight. I mean, in the voice memo, she said that it was about letting good into your life, that you have to make that choice for yourself. Long story short, that's also on here is a bit confusing too. But if you check the lyrics, it's almost clear that it's about her having an epiphany about life. Past me, I want to tell you not to get lost in these petty things. Your nemesis will defeat themselves before you get a chance to swing. She's at a stage in her life where she's opened up her eyes. She can accept her past and take her present as it is. Now, of course, you might have noticed there are no Reputation songs on these playlists or debut songs, and I've seen a few people asking why online, and it's kind of obvious it's because she hasn't re-released those albums, so she doesn't want to promote them. And with that, we are wrapping up this video. I can't believe next week we will already have the album. I am so excited to hear it. Let me know which choices on these playlists surprised you the most, or if there's any songs that you can't figure out how they ended up on those playlists, because I would love to talk about it. Maybe we do another deep dive together. And anyway, as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!